And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. This is Coffee Talk. Coffee Talk Live if you're on YouTube, and that is at Coffee Talk Live on YouTube. If you're looking for me there, please do find me on YouTube, as well as Prepper University on YouTube, Prepper University, and at Coffee Talk Chat on X, formerly known as Twitter, if you are so inclined to use Twitter or X or whatever the hell they're calling it now, as well as Fistful of Radio. That is fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon, unless otherwise advised. As we get ready to discuss some of the things that are going on in the world today, some of the news, if you will, some snippets you may have heard of, some things you may not have seen, maybe not, but we'll have a little discussion about it. And of course, for those of you who are listening and not watching, not able to see what's going on in the live portion that takes place on YouTube at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I do read through as many of the comments as is realistic so that you can keep up, so that you can figure out what's going on in the conversation. And I'll go ahead and acknowledge some of the people that have chimed in so far. I see Dragon is here, Helter, Delo, All People, Bingo, and Boogers have said hello thus far as we get ready to dive into what is going on in the world. A lot of bad things. A lot of bad things. There's not too much good news out there. Never is, unfortunately. I see Urban Angst has popped in here today. Glad everybody could make it. Hope you enjoy the conversation as we bounce around the world and see what is going on in this, that, and the other. And we'll start in Ireland. We'll start in Ireland. We've been talking about Ireland a little bit in the last week because of the riots that took place in Dublin over a stabbing. And I'm going into it again because this article from the National Review reveals a little bit more into what happened than any of the previous articles that I have read. It changes the perspective a little bit. And so I thought it would be interesting. And Donna Beaver is here and says it was 19 this morning in extreme North Georgia. Yeah, it was about that cold out here too. I believe it was about 20 degrees this morning where I am. So yeah, there was a bitter cold snap in Georgia this morning. I see Monkey has also joined us here today. Glad you could make it. And it says banning ire in Ireland. A little play on words there. Banning the ire in Ireland. Because how dare those naughty people revolt because of the mishandling of their police and law enforcement and local and national government. So here we go. In February this year, the Irish police reported that there had been an exponential increase in protests during the last year. I wonder why. Many of these were protests about the lack of affordable housing or against plainly foolish schemes for housing refugees. I think that's really the problem. At one point, the government suggested housing 950 Ukrainian refugees in a village of just 100 Irish residents. Think about that. So the government had 950 refugees they wanted to dump in a neighborhood or a community that had only about 100 old boys in it. Does that make much sense to anybody? A few protests drew attention to the fact that the refugee accommodations said to be reserved for Ukrainians fleeing from war seemed to be entirely occupied by working age men from Africa and Asia. So the government then told these people, oh, well, we have Ukrainians that are fleeing the war, but everybody they brought was African and from the Middle East. So the government pulled a little okey doke. And by the way, I don't know if it mentions it in this article, but was brought up before that these refugees are being paid $200 a week each by the government. Last week, an Algerian-born man who had lived in Ireland for over 20 years and avoided deportation orders stabbed 3 children in the city of Dublin. Bystanders intervened. 2 of them ended up in critical condition. The reaction on the street spilled over into the worst rioting Dublin has seen in decades. Stop right there. Now, this changes everything that has been mentioned in the previous articles. First of all, no other article has mentioned where this person came from. And secondly, several of those articles that we looked at said that the person in question was a citizen, a foreign-born citizen. This says he's Algerian, has been in Ireland for 20 years, and has been avoiding deportation orders. So he's not a citizen. He just has been able to evade, or maybe they're not trying hard enough to look for him, but evading being repatriated back to where he came from. Also, it said 3 children and a woman were stabbed and in critical condition, but none of the other articles mentioned townsfolk getting involved and 2 guys getting critically injured in the melee. So 4 people weren't stabbed, 6 people were stabbed. 2 men, 1 woman, and 3 children. And again, he's not a citizen, even though other articles alluded to the idea that he was. If he was facing deportation, if he was avoiding deportation orders and has been hanging around in Ireland for 20 years, he is not a citizen. It says, in response, the government has blamed the far right for the riots and revived efforts to pass a law criminalizing, here it comes, quote, hate speech. The law would criminalize any speech likely to incite hatred or violence against protected groups. In some sense, the law is gratuitous. Ireland already has laws that prohibit people from instigating riots, and even laws against incitement of hatred. It has been the lax and generally liberal norms around these laws that have kept the Irish public from examining the new hate speech laws closely or getting excited or anxious about them. Stop again. So they're saying here that they don't want to a law criminalizing hate speech likely to incite hatred or violence against, quote, protected groups. So your citizens are not protected groups? Unnaturalized illegal immigrants in your country, or legal or otherwise, are more important than your own natural citizens, is what they're suggesting. As I catch up a couple more comments here. Monkey says it was 20 degrees where they are, but it felt like one degree. And Fluke Man is here. And All People says Ireland will soon become little Nigeria or little Pakistan. And in one of the other articles that we had read, I'll remind you, it says that currently about 20% of the population of Ireland is migrants. And that seriously dilutes their population. When you have, especially when you're talking about in Europe, the United States aside, Canada aside, Australia aside, the core of the majority of European countries, Eastern and Western, have centuries of input, centuries that they've been living there, centuries of culture, and a strong sense of nationalism because of that they're diluting with all of these people. Gary is here. Glad you could make it, as well as Johnny Future. He says he's sick. Sorry to hear that, Johnny. And Deanna is here. All People said Irish university graduates cannot afford to rent an apartment. Migrants get free luxury and regular housing. Ireland is now seen as the second richest nation on earth, following Luxembourg. And Dragon says the Irish legislature wants to pass draconian hate speech laws in order to protect people's feelings and identity. This is going to completely boomerang on them when ultra right-wingers come to power. And Sven says, free stab zones in Ireland. It would be nice if there was a man worth his salt on the police force and stand up to the bad word laws, but they need a Magna Carta. The Magna Carta doesn't take. Well, nobody ever obeyed the Magna Carta anyways. I know people like to say, oh, it was the first time ratified this and that. The Pope forced the king to sign something. He signed it and didn't follow it. So who cares? If I remember that correctly. All people, says the migrants in Ireland, neither know nor care anything about the history of the Irish or their struggles and hardships and culture. They are there for the money and luxury given to them for free. Yeah. And that's the argument. And obviously, like I said, following along that article, they're not looking for these people all that damn hard. If that guy's been schlepping around Ireland for 20 years and has deportation orders and they haven't caught up with him yet, doesn't catch up with them yet. Deanna wants to know if I have lives for prepper topics on another platform. No, not currently. Not currently. I don't know if there would be much of an audience for it, to be honest. But I just thought it was interesting. A few things revealed in this article, and this is from the National Review, that had not been mentioned in the other article. Where this person came from, Algeria, the fact that he was indeed not a citizen, the fact that 6 people were stabbed, not 4, because men in the neighborhood saw what was going on and intervened, thankfully, before those kids and that woman were completely killed. Because if they weren't there to break it up, 2 of them, it says, were critically injured in the incident, wrestling this guy down. And I think this is really interesting also, that they tried to dump 950 Ukrainian refugees in a village of 100 Irish residents. And it turned out that they weren't even Ukrainian. They were from Africa and Asia, i.e. the Middle East. Absolutely unbelievable that how the governments, Western governments, are treating their natural citizens. And Anarchy is here from rural Minnesota. And Sven says, prep Jesus and then water, food, and shelter and other stuff. There you go. But I just wanted to run that over because it brought up things that had not been previously mentioned about that stabbing incident that led to the riots, which the Irish government is blaming on extreme right-wing racists, apparently, and xenophobes that just can't accept the migrants. I'm not going to accept migrants either. If they're living for free, they're not interested in our culture and history, and they want to run around and play stabby with everybody. As we jump all the way to Chicago, and this is another one I thought was interesting. One more comment here real quick. Monkey says, this shit is how you get people to get tired of trying to play the nice democratic game before the people say F it and go around the system completely. There's only so much you can take. There's only so much that people can take. Next article's from Fox News. And it says that the Chicago mayor blames predecessor Lightfoot for migrant crisis. Oh, so it's Lightfoot's fault. You know what I think is funny? You see this video clip, for those of you watching, there's Lightfoot. Not Lightfoot, I'm sorry. That's Brandon Johnson talking. And he's got the guy there standing next to him translating in sign language. You notice how these politicians always have a sign language translator on the podium? As if deaf people don't have a television with closed caption. You see what I mean? You ever thought about that? You ever thought about that? So deaf people can't read? Is that the idea? Because that is why there's closed caption on television, so that they don't have to do this. But they always get some deaf rep to stand there and do sign language translation, and they don't need to. Hell, you can get the closed caption in any language. You don't need translation at all for the general viewing public. Not anymore. And the closed caption has been there for decades. Monkey says, are the Chicago newspaper stations doing the total Trump derangement, except now it's with Lightfoot? Yeah, well, they got to turn, yeah, they're flipping around and blaming Lightfoot for everything. It says Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson said he inherited the Windy City's migrant crisis from his predecessor, former Mayor Lori Lightfoot, during a press conference touting construction of the city's first government-run migrant tent encampment. Look, the international crisis that I inherited 6 months ago, I've made it very clear that we are going to make sure that we remove people out of police districts, women, children, who are living on floors and sleeping outside, that we're going to create spaces that provide more dignity, Johnson said Tuesday. At least 20,000 migrants have poured into Chicago since August 2022, when many migrants were bused from the southern border states to liberal cities farther north. Yeah, blame it on them. Efforts have been underway to strip Chicago of its sanctuary city status as some residents sound off about the issue. Yeah, a lot of residents of Chicago are protesting this now. In addition to the influx of migrants who lack shelter, an estimated 68,000 Chicago citizens are considered homeless, Fox News Digital reported earlier this month. Oh, he don't look like he's mad at Lightfoot in this photo, if you can see it. Wow, that is an unattractive woman. I'm sorry. She looks like a leprechaun. I hate to get distracted, but my God. The city has struggled with where to house the people, relying on police stations and O'Hare International Airport, both of which should never have happened in the first place. There should not be homeless or migrants living at the airport or in police stations. I can't do that. Now, Johnson says his government is working with 17 churches as part of the Unity Initiative to move migrants from the public spaces and into the churches for shelter, and announced the construction of the Brighton Park Migrant Camp, Chicago's first government-run migrant tent encampment, which migrants have been rejecting when they've been brought there. They've been turning away. We read that article a couple of weeks ago, like, nah, I don't want to go in there. It looks like some kind of like post-apocalyptic FEMA camp. We're scared of that. Also, I think it's interesting, this Unity Initiative, working with 17 churches as part of the Unity Initiative, basically paying 17 bigwig churches to do what they should be doing anyways if they truly are charitable in the first place. Yeah, 501c3 churches, anyone? You can't trust them. Catching up a couple of comments here. Sven says, I have a good friend that has been disowned by his family because he loves his adopted country of America. He says it's the best place to work hard and do well. He told his parents to go home. Ow. And Monkey says, blame Lightfoot for everything, despite her not doing a damn thing. And just because he inherited a problem doesn't mean he needs to compound it. He could try to fix the problem by, refusing the migrants, taking care of Chicago citizens first, making them a priority instead of draining the city's treasury for the migrant crisis when the city doesn't have any money, and then coming up with other crazy taxes and other regulations and schemes to screw over the taxpayers even further. He could try to fix this instead of just saying, oh, I inherited the problem. What am I going to do? Yeah. Gary says he doesn't mind the signing, just the demeaning tones. And Monkey says, as in her trying to make Chicago better in the context of not doing a damn thing. And there's Christopher, and he says, I live in New Jersey and work in a grocery store. I've had a lot of people with Russian, Ukrainian accents asked where things are and look out of place. I often wonder if they're either ops or relocated to hide them. Interesting question. And Sven says, places to live nowhere near the mile. And Flukeman says Johnson blames it on another black person, not on a white supremacist. Well, he didn't have any white people in government to blame in Chicago. He's out of luck. And A4301 has joined us here today. Dragon says, in a narcissistic behavior pattern, a thief will think everybody's a thief. A liar will think everybody's a liar. And he blames everything and everyone but himself. Very often that's the case. And Deanna says Beetlejuice. Yeah, I've heard Lightfoot compared to Beetlejuice. Helter said people like him constantly preached about open borders and welcoming migrants into the country when people rightfully called him out. People like him called us extremists for simply stating common sense. Yeah, and look at him now. Look at him now. He's another one, just like the mayor of New York, Mayor Adams, mocked southern states for their calamity. Oh, look at you. You can't take it. Boo-hoo. Then when they started bussing them up north, now all of a sudden it's a disaster. Now it's a disaster. And whose fault is it? Oh, it's the previous mayor's fault. Oh, it's the southern state's fault. No responsibility for yourself. None. Prime Mover says Lightfoot is smoking hottie from heaven, perfected by God to bless Chicago with her wisdom. Yeah, I guess that's it. Urban says it's interesting to see what happens in places like Chicago where they ran out of white people to blame. Yeah, he's got to blame Lightfoot for it. Sit there and turn tables on poor Mayor Lightfoot. There she is again. Golly, what a mug. Oh, no. And of course, she lost the election. But yeah, you can blame her now because she's a predecessor, and they always do that sort of thing. But since you brought up race baiting, I don't know if you've seen this in the news. I don't know if you've seen this particular incident in the news. I'm going to share this one with you. And this is from a website called Whiskey Riff. Young Kansas City Chiefs fan accused of wearing blackface. And this was, who had originally posted this article? Some journalist or so-called journalist. Black man, of course. Claiming that no place is safe. And that this boy at the Kansas City Chiefs game managed to insult black people and Indians at the same time by wearing blackface to the game, completely taking what was going on out of context so that he could gaslight people. This is the kind of journalism we've come to expect here. One more comment, and this is from Sven. He says, Democrats have always strived to destroy the black community, gun control, and now taking in the community buildings in poor areas, but nowhere near Miracle Mile. Yeah. And Chicago's got some of the strictest gun policies in the country, and they have some of the worst shooting records. And those guns are not legal guns, obviously. And this article says, can't let the facts get in the way of some good outrage. How many times have we seen something go viral online only to find out that it's not true at all? Everybody remembers Jesse Smollett, right? Many were quick to jump on the outrage train after the cameras showed a young fan at the Kansas City Chiefs game yesterday against the Las Vegas Raiders wearing a Native American headdress with his face painted black. And you see the image there, for those of you who can see. This is the image that has been getting used in the articles, where you see the right side of his face, and it is black, but jet black, flat black, and he is wearing a headdress because, of course, football fans and soccer fans do this a lot too. But you see it a lot in American football where people dress up, they paint their bodies, they wear funny costumes as a homage to the team, which is what this kid's doing. He didn't go there saying, I'm going to make fun of black people. Says the outrage mob immediately took to social media to call the kid racist for wearing blackface and Deadspin, which I didn't even realize was still around, even demanded that NFL condemn the young fan. Says the NFL needs to speak out against the Kansas City Chiefs fan in blackface and native headdress. And this is the article. Blackface with the headdress. This is deep, seasoned to the bone racism, brah. You have to intentionally, methodically do this, right? Got to say the blackface really got me to forget about the headdress. In 2023, blackface sprinkled with cultural appropriation like, do we get a reset in the effing 40s? On and on and on. And it points out here, there's only one problem with the narrative. He wasn't wearing blackface. In fact, the other side of his face was painted red. And I do have that image. I'm going to pull it up here really quick so that you can see. Phony outrage from people who have no clue what racism really looks like. It's disgusting. And it's an insult to people who have actually suffered racism, and a slap in the face to people's ancestors who did suffer such things. And this is a Newsweek article, NFL fans blackface at games sparks a fight. And you scroll down here, and they have the actual photograph. Waiting for it to pop up. Waiting for it to pop up. There's so many ads on this, it's ridiculous. I'm looking for it. Looking for it, folks. It's down here somewhere, because that's why I pulled this up in the first place. I guess I got to give it a minute to warm up. Unbelievable. Let me look at a couple of comments here really quick. Monkey says, even Twitter's fact check even said there's red on the other side of the face that we can't see. Oh, you can see, because there are photographs of this kid from all the way around, because he was focused on by the camera. You know how they put you up on the Jumbotron and crap? It was seen all the way around, but they clipped out the shot where it's just the right side of his face, so that they could race bait in the. Wow, this is just acting really wonky, trying to get that picture to come up properly. And then all people, new blacks come to America already angry and with a list of demands due to thinking America is racist and owes non-whites. And Prime Mover says the other half of his face is red and he's legit Native American. And Derp says, hey, everyone, should almost name the show What's in the Propaganda Today. No kidding. And he says, how are the kiddies doing? Kiddies are doing fine. I'm taking care of 10 right now. Taking care of 10 right now. Wow, this article is just here it comes. There it is. There it is. There's the actual like shot. And you see the kid just watching the game. He wore the headdress because it's the Chiefs. He's wearing a Chiefs jersey. He's got a Chiefs necklace on, KC right there. And half black and half red, which are the team's colors. You can see exactly what this kid's trying to do. Monkey said, my dad's Native American, born in San Bernardino area. I don't know what tribe he's in, and my mother's white, so I can claim to be a minority. You could. And Dragon says, what is the goal here? To get an innocent child bullied? We got children ending themselves over bullying and grown people out here trying to rally others to attack a child. Absolutely. And Helter said, the kid that wore the headdress in spirit of the literal mascot of the team. Only those with a victim mentality and gatekeepers for other cultures. And Johnny says, if I wore Black Panther mask for Halloween, would I be racist? Under the current victimhood mentality, yes, you would be. And Christopher says he saw a report that he has a Native American in him on his father's side. Even more so. Even more so. So people don't know anything about this kid. Sorry, you're going to hear some construction noise here in a minute. So if it gets to be too much, let me know. I'm pretty sure you can hear me clearly, but I don't want too much distraction. But yeah, I hadn't heard that about him being partially native Indian. It wouldn't surprise me. But he went to the Chiefs game, wore a headdress. It's just one of those silly things people do at football games. It has nothing to do with race or nationality. It has to do with paying homage to the team and to the mascot of the team. That's all it is. It's perfectly innocent. There's no intention. There's no deep-seated racism. There's nothing like that. But we live in a society now where they like to pretend to be victims. People like to pretend to be victims because they like to pretend that victimhood is somehow virtuous, and there's no virtue in pretending to be a victim. There's nothing. There's no merit at all. You earned nothing by pretending to be a victim, and I'm tired of hearing that. I'm tired of seeing people pander to it. I'm tired of seeing people gaslight others over this sort of thing. I would not have looked at that and thought that he was trying to be racist or that there was any cultural misappropriation, just a kid playing around. I don't look at just to throw it out there, I don't look at a black woman wearing a wig and 2-inch eyelashes and makeup and like 3-inch acrylic nails and say cultural appropriation or cultural misappropriation, because their hair and eyelashes don't normally look that way. That's very European. You know what I mean? So whatever, they just chose to dress up. I don't like wigs and makeup and eyelashes, but you want to wear that, go ahead. I don't sit there and say, how dare you? You're trying to look white. Derp says it's crazy the word racist still exists. It's ethnicism. As far as I know, there's only the human race, so these people hate themselves. It's insane. And that's a great point, something I've talked about many times, that there is a race implies one genotype. So a giraffe is one race. A giraffe can't mate with any other animal and produce an offspring. It doesn't work. A hippopotamus can't mate with any other animal and produce offspring, and so on and so on and so on. If humans were different races, we wouldn't be able to reproduce with one another. It would be impossible. It would be impossible. And Johnny says people are that bored, they invent racist things. So they want to draw attention to themselves. They want to play the victim card. They want to pretend to be virtuous. And it's really disgusting. All people says our American Indian tribes do not care about the team names or mascots. It's white social justice warriors that are offended by that. Meanwhile, Thanksgiving is the favorite holiday of American Indian tribes. Most of them don't. And I remember when they were trying to get the Kansas City Chiefs to change their name many years ago when I was still living in Kansas, and there's people from Congress that are championing it because they have nothing better to do. And somebody actually went to some of the tribes on the tribal territories in Kansas and interviewed people and asked them. And God, what was it? If I remember correctly, something like 87% of them didn't care one way or the other. Call them the Chiefs, don't. What the hell difference does it make? So who are you protecting? They don't need your help. Monkey says these things should be PSA for getting kids to not get on the internet for social media, only for educational uses. Well, that would require more parents to step up and prevent that, to control it better, to not let their 5-year-old have their own cell phone and so on. But people, they don't care. It pacifies the kids. They don't have to deal with them. Johnny says, what about a black woman with blonde hair? Yeah. I don't sit there and say you're misappropriating European culture by pretending to be blonde. Put on a blonde wig. I don't care what you do. You know, Monkey said making your internet footprint as little as possible. And Gary says, are red and black chess sets racist? Yeah, no kidding. Or black and white chess sets for that matter. And Johnny says, same with the Atlanta Braves. Yeah, there's always some idiot trying to champion that sort of thing so that they can virtue signal, pretend like they're fighting for someone who doesn't need a fight, pushing an agenda, playing the victim, or pretending that someone else is a victim. Remember, an activist is someone whose job it is to pretend to be outraged because they benefit from it. They benefit from it. They earn a paycheck from it. It lines their pockets with cash. It brings them a much needed narcissistic attention. They thrive on it. They live for it. Oh, look over here. Oh, look over there. Everything's racist. Everybody's against you. All white people are evil, whatever. And it's ballooned into this issue in society whereby you have victims and victimizers. You have oppressors and you have the oppressed, and nothing in between. There's no gray area anymore. And not realizing that it's almost all gray area, and oppressors and truly oppressed people are on the fringes. We're all in the gray area. You can't accept it. You want to be a victim because if you're a victim, no one can touch you. And hey, you might get a paycheck out of it too. It's really disgusting where we've ended up as a society. Fluke Man said, "Is the word chief originally referred to Indians?" I don't think so. I'm not sure on that 100%. Monkey says, when I get on VR chat with my headset, there's even kids out there that are in single digits, 3 to 9 years old, and the people I'm around are in shock and report the kids due to VR chat and Meta's TOS. Yeah, there shouldn't be anybody that young in those systems. My middle son, he didn't have a cell phone until he was 15. My youngest got a cell phone really young, but that's because of his mother and because I don't have custody right now. I haven't had custody for a long time. Monkey says, on you being 13 or older to be on the VR chat. Okay. And Johnny says, you heard about the one politician that said roads are racist. Yeah, that's right. That was the, who is it? The chief of the Department of Transportation. And he even brought that up when he went to Palestine, where the train wreck was, talking about racist road exits and that needs to be adjusted. It's like, dude, don't you have more important things to do? And Derp says activists and crisis actors are synonyms. Yeah, no kidding. And Monkey said, and plus the kids' eyesight is getting messed up with since the screen is glued to your eyes. Not only that, but they lose their peripheral vision. They're not aware of what's going on. It's like they have blinders because they're always focused like this. And where your eyes are directly focused only accounts for about, I think it was, 20% of your vision, and the other 80% is peripheral. And you should have a wide range. You should be able to see. Like when I'm looking, I stop like back here. If I'm looking straight forward, I can still see my hands. But you should be aware of any motion in here. But if you stare at a fixed point constantly, you're not aware of what's going on around you like that. Johnny said racist because it divides communities. Yeah, and that's something, again, it really kind of started with the Obama administration, where we dove back into a huge divide as far as a racial divide in this country. We were seeing it go away, and it seemed permanently. And there's always going to be people who are racist, always going to be people who are prejudiced, who don't like one group or another group for one reason or another and whatever, but there are usually a minority of people. But it seems like it's so much more when you have activists and politicians and people in the media pandering to it constantly. And they'll take 1 out of 10,000 people and make it look like it's the whole group. It's really disgusting. And Gary says overt race pandering achieves the real goal of stirring hatred, which is a divide and conquer strategy. Yeah. And that's, when you have a sitting president pulling the race card, which he had done, I guess America just wasn't ready for a black president. I'll never forget I'll never forget that he said that. I just want to cuss. He pisses me off so bad. And then you saw a big political divide when Trump came into office. He's not necessarily directly responsible for it, but it was created over him, a huge divide between if you're Democrat or Republican. It was already there, but it wasn't as prominent. And it just goes on and on. Monkey says, I got my cell phone when I was in 8th grade. When I went to Washington, D.C., this was more in case something happens when I was there. Yeah, I can understand that. And All People says, how on earth did activism become a paying profession? And why do most of them hail from either foreigner or color families of white leftist families? I have no idea. Prime Mover says it's all projection. Racist people love to scream racism about others, where the racism only exists in themselves. And very often that's the case. Very often that is the case. And now it won't clear. Computer's acting up. Sorry, guys. And speaking of racism, Oh, this isn't a racism article. This comes from State of the Union. This is about something entirely different. Boycott looms for Kellogg's Fruit Loops for pushing woke agenda on kids. Oh my, I don't know if you saw this story. This one's flying under the radar, at least for now. Manufacturers are now including woke propaganda on cereal boxes, with Kellogg's Fruit Loops promoting a digital library with diversity and inclusion content in Canada. Well, I guess Fruit Loops would be the appropriate box then for the Alphabet Mafia. Social media accounts have urged a boycott of Kellogg's, and some users have criticized the campaign. And what are they doing? Well, it's going to tell you. Fruit Loops is now encouraging kids to go online and read their free library of woke propaganda. Libs of TikTok cautioned their followers that the cereal giant Kellogg's wants to indoctrinate your children with breakfast cereal. Stop giving them your money. Kids starting the day off right with 6 servings of sugar and a side of woke indoctrination. According to Newsweek, Kellogg's stated that the company has set a global management goal of having a 50-50 gender partiality or parity at management level by the end of 2025, adding by the same deadline, it's also aiming to bring the number of racially unrepresented talent at management level up to 25%. So you're going to give jobs to unqualified people so that you can check boxes. That's great. But again, the real problem here is the cereal box. And I don't know if you can read this. I'll read it. It says, your family can learn. This is on the back of the cereal box. For those of you who can't see, if you're just listening, your family can learn how incredibly colorful and diverse the world can be with our Ed and I family-centric library. It's a free online library of equity, diversity, and inclusion family-centric content, including books, podcasts, and more, curated in partnership. I don't know who it's in partnership with because I can't see the rest of it. Sorry for the banging there, guys. They're out here repairing a window, working on the side of the house. Unbelievable. And Sven says, don't Kellogg's get busy with underage migrant children packing cereal in Michigan? Probably. And Sven says, reiterating, it says, didn't Kellogg's get busted with underage migrant children packing cereal in Michigan? I'm not sure about that. I hadn't heard that, but I wouldn't be surprised. And Prime Mover says, it is all machinery though. That I would have to wonder if they were, I don't think they would be packing cereal, having worked in industrial food factories myself. I used to work for Frito-Lay. You don't even touch the stuff. It's all machines. And Prime Mover says any cereal with sugar in it is yummy garbage, i.e. cornflakes. Monkey says cereal's the biggest scam, with it apparently being the healthiest thing to start with the morning. Derp says most likely in partnership with BlackRock or Vanguard. Yeah, it did. I couldn't see the end of that because it's not in the picture. And All People says Obama wasn't even a true black person, never claimed to be one until he entered politics, raised by his white mother, Asian stepdad, and when his Kenyan African dad abandoned him. And Helter says Kellogg's playing the DEI game. They're injecting woke stuff into their products. Can't any company just make the best product it can without any politics? What are they really trying to do or sell? And Dragon points out that DEI is destroying everything ideologically. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I've never seen anything political on a cereal box. I don't think so. I don't think I've ever seen anything political on a cereal box. This is the first time I've heard of a company doing something like that, and it's disheartening. You don't need to do that. I've seen cereal companies give away books before and things like that, and it's usually something like The Hungry Caterpillar or a Dr. Seuss book or something, not woke diversity inclusion books. That's appalling, and I don't want my kids seeing that. And you could, unknowingly just grab a box of Fruit Loops, put it out for your kid. They grab the cereal, they read the back of the box, go to this digital library, because you're not monitoring those kids. You're not. Most people are not watching their kids. I know some are, but most are not. They don't know what they do, and exposing themselves to this without the parents' knowledge or consent, which is exactly why they do stuff like this. All people said, goodbye, Kellogg's. No kidding. Can't buy Kellogg's anymore. If I tell my wife this, she'll insist that we don't buy any Kellogg's products again. Not kidding. Anytime a company does anything like that, not that we really buy anything from Kellogg's anyways, but anytime something like that comes up, my wife automatically is like, well, can't buy that anymore. Like when Oreo had the rainbow Oreos for Pride Month, she was like, and she likes Oreos. She was like, I can't eat Oreos anymore. I'm not buying them ever again. And she's not kidding. And I don't blame her. And I'm in agreement with her on that. You know, we're in agreement on most things. But obviously, this has become enough of a problem, even though this is only in Canada currently, because Canada is more of a dystopia than the United States at this point. Even though it's only in Canada, the company is still doing it. The company is still playing that game. Still playing that game, folks. And I get tired of it. I get tired of it. Deanna says that they lost interest in Kellogg's when they left Michigan for Mexico. The cereal's probably better down there. It's probably better. But you get tired of this kind of ideology being injected in anything. Can't you just sell your product? Why do you have to put political ideology into every damn thing? Why do you have to try to force it on us? If we want that, we can find it on our own. We don't need you to present it to us. We don't need you to force it on us. We don't need you to indoctrinate us with it. You're not helping anybody. You're not helping anybody. Derp says, should see what's stamped on the Oreo cookie. It's very dark side if you're willing to check it out. Really? And Urban says, I thought Canada was the most woke. Uh-oh. Bang, bang. I thought Canada was the most woke, but it looks like Australia and Ireland are taking the L on that one. Australia's pretty bad. Australia's pretty bad, and so is New Zealand. New Zealand and Canada. Those three are probably among the worst right now, I believe. I don't know if our friends from New Zealand are in here today to chime in on that. Johnny says, we are gay and we're coming for your children. Yeah. And there's a lot to be said for that. That frightens me a lot, actually. Going back to my interviews for the Boston Phoenix newspaper in the very, very early 90s, and every single gay person that was interviewed was molested in childhood and believes they were born that way. And it's like, if you were molested in adolescence, okay, that's before puberty, you can't see where that would alter your perception of sexuality. Am I wrong? And by a much older man, by the way, average age in the 40s, who said that they could tell the child was gay and was trying to help them, is primarily the description. And I think all but two of the people that I talked to was molested by an adult male, and the two that were not, it was women. It was a woman who did it. And Prime Mover says all sexual perversions go hand in hand. And then Bingo says, so your ex has your kid and you want the kid back. You know, we have your back, right? Just blink if you want one of us to take care of the problem. Joking, or am I? Yeah, well, Yeah, she's had him for years, and she's caused a lot of problems, and she's made him very estranged now. I really don't even hear from him anymore. I really don't even hear from him anymore. And it's become such that when I do hear from him, what I hear I don't like. He's not the kid that I remember. He's been exposed to too much negativity, and he's a completely different person. So it makes it very hard. All people said Nabisco was stupid to have made Oreo the pride cookie, seeing how the mixed race communities literally served Oreos at their conventions as an inside joke. Now they've boycotted Oreos. And speaking of boycotts and protests, speaking of boycotts and protests, we're going to jump to a Newsweek article. Sex and the City star Cynthia Nixon launches hunger strike for Gaza. Oh no, please don't do it. There she is. And she's holding a sign. Biden, you are starving Gaza. Permanent ceasefire now. Because, apparently we're the ones invading Gaza, not Israel. I don't know. Cynthia Nixon, the actor best known for her role on HBO's Sex and the City, revealed Monday that she will be undertaking a hunger strike as part of a call for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. The Gaza territory is currently embroiled in an intense conflict between the Israeli military and the Palestinian militant group Hamas, which carried out a historically bloody attack against Israel on October 7th, killing over 1,200 people. It's over 1,400, actually. According to the Associated Press, in response, Israeli military strikes in Gaza have killed over 13,000, the AP reported. This almost all of them fighting age men who were armed. This escalating conflict has led to a fierce international discourse, with many calling for a ceasefire in Gaza to provide relief for the citizens engulfed in the fighting. Among prominent figures voicing support for a ceasefire is Nixon, who on Monday joined prominent Muslim, Jewish, and allied leaders and state legislators from New York and Delaware for a press conference outside the White House, at which she announced her participation in a 5-day hunger strike as part of a call for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza, according to her press release provided to Newsweek. Okay. Several problems with this I'm going to have real quick here. Sven says, keep it at Cindy. We will wait. Bingo says, that's a shame, and that's why a lot of guys don't want to have kids and get married anymore. Yeah, she's poisoned him. He spent the first 6 years of his life with me because she couldn't be bothered with him. Went to court. They snatched him away, and she's turned him into a little monster. Plain and simple. I don't even recognize him anymore. Bingo. Oh, I just read that. Hold on. Because our Frost is here. He says, good day from Montana. And Deanna says, the Macy's parade protest was funny. Did anyone see it? Oh, yeah. Those morons gluing their hands to the street. Should have left them there and just ran the parade over them. Helter says, Nixon likely doesn't care or even know about Gaza. She's doing something to keep her name in the news. Exactly. And this is a couple of my points here. Number one, I don't know who this woman is. I never heard of her. I never heard of her name. I've heard of the show Sex and the City. I've seen in my lifetime maybe 2 episodes of it. I didn't care for it. I thought it was trash. I don't know who this woman is. I don't care who this woman is. Number one. Number two, as was just pointed out by Helter, she doesn't know what the hell's going on over there. She's just trying to be relevant with her Americanized Muslim so-called friends and Americanized Israeli so-called friends that are neither Muslim nor Israeli by any Middle Eastern standard, and wants to protest to be relevant again. Number 3, 5 days. Listen very carefully. And I hope you're listening, Cynthia Nixon. 5 days is not a hunger strike. That's a fast. That is a fast. When you don't eat for a few hours, when you don't eat for the day, when you go to bed and wake up in the morning, it's a fast. That's why they call breakfast. It's break fast because you haven't eaten all night. Not eating for 5 days isn't going to hurt you. I'm not impressed. You are not Gandhi. You are not Mahatma Gandhi. When Gandhi fasted, people cared because people actually gave a shit about him because he was well known and popular. And when he fasted, he damn well meant it. He was ready to be carried off to the hospital by the time he was done, when they would force him to eat. 5 days is not a fast. I'll not eat for 5 days to cleanse my system. I'm not impressed at all. You are not on a hunger strike. That is not a hunger strike. Anybody get where I'm coming from? Derp says, biggest war machine. Russia can't take a tiny little country for years now, milking all countries to keep this BS going. Right, totally logical, totally real. Johnny says, is she culture appropriating by wearing a hijab? No kidding. And then Fluke says, war existed between Jews and the Middle East for thousands of years, and she thinks she can make a change. Do people involved even know who she is? I don't know who she was. Like I said, I've heard of the show. I saw a couple of episodes years and years ago. I didn't like it. I thought it was pretty stupid. And yeah, as Fluke Man points out, there's been war in the Middle East for eons. But not just between Hebrew people and other factions, but they all been fighting with each other the whole time. Even within their own tribes, they fight each other. All People says, per the internet, the Nixon actress comes from a big money family. She's essentially yet another spoiled rich gal seeking attention. Yeah. She probably feels like she needs to lose some weight, and that's why she wants to have her hunger strike. Hunger strike. Yeah, Loyal says Sex in the City. Is it Sex in the City, Sex and the City? It says Sex and the City on the article. That's why I said that. I don't know. I never watched it. Not my cup of tea. I don't care. But I'm just offended that they're even calling that a hunger strike. Like I said, she's not freaking Gandhi. Come here, Uncle. Come here, Uncle. Cat break, real quick. That's the big boy. Here we go. Hey, buddy. There's Uncle. The tuxedo cat. 20 pounds of cat, folks. 20 pounds of cat. All the way down there. Want to say hello? Say hi to everybody. How you doing, buddy? And then let me catch up a couple of these real quick. All People says there was an old comedy sketch program that referred to her show as Sluts in the City. No kidding. Loyal Tangi says it's another part of Mandela. Monkey says hunger strikes don't have a stop date. Yeah, exactly. You either fall out or they give in to your demands. And Derp says, kitties, what a sweet cat. Yeah, he's a big baby. And Bingo said, I don't understand why Biden hasn't told his media B words not to cover the anti-war protests. They obviously listened to him and how fast they attacked Trump when he said to. And Johnny says, Uncle is a ham for the video. And R. Frost says, hopefully Nixon self terminates. She's a waste of oxygen. Well, she's not going to drop off from not eating for 5 days. I've had periods where I've been longer than that without eating. Longer than 5 days. 5 days is a drop in the bucket. You can do it. Once you get through the pangs of the first 24 hours and your stomach settles, you can do it. You can do it, no problem. And All People said, Uncle, the 20-pound baby that everyone loves. He's a good boy. He really is. He's a very, very sweet animal. And come here, Granny. Come here, Granny Smith. Come here, Granny Smith. Hello, baby. I know I'm running over now, but here's Granny Smith. Hi, darling. How's your elbow, honey? As we get ready to sign off, again, this is Coffee Talk, and you can find me at Coffee Talk Live on YouTube, as well as Prepper University on YouTube, and at Coffee Talk Chat on X, formerly known as Twitter, as well as fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. For those of you who can see, there's little Miss Granny Smith, came to say hi to me. Hope everybody got something out of the conversation today. And we will try to do this again tomorrow, or we will do this again tomorrow. I don't see any reason why it would be interfered with. So we will catch you all again then. Thanks for joining us today.